welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If you haven't, then I'm Gemma and I talk about books, and today I thought I would do something a little bit different that I've not done before, and that is do an individual sort of reading vlog slash book review. So I have just started The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I'm about 30% of the way through, and yeah, so I thought I would talk about this in segments as I get to different parts of the book, and then round up at the end with a review of what I thought. Yeah, I'm about 30% in, which is around 100 pages, and so far I'm enjoying it. I have previously read The Hunting Party. I haven't read The Guest List, so this is the second book of hers that I've read. So she seems to favour multiple points of view. She writes in very, very short chapters, and each chapter tends to be alternated between a different character's perspective. And it's a really interesting way of doing it. I don't mind multiple points of view. I'm not a lover of things written in the present tense, but actually, because of how she writes and what she writes, it tends to fit. It just seems to work. She also has just a really clever way of creating characters. So she does annoying, posh, arrogant, unlikable women very, very well, and obnoxious, slightly sexist men very, very well, which makes for interesting reading because it means that all of her characters tend to be quite suspicious. And as all of her books are revolved around a mystery, it becomes really interesting because you just don't know who to trust. In this book in particular, we are following Jess, who seems to have something to hide herself. She's turned up in Paris slightly unexpectedly, hoping to stay with her half-brother. And she's turned up at his apartment block, and he's not there. She can't even get in. He's not picking up any of her messages, and she eventually finds a way into the building, but every single person she speaks to is really evasive. They don't want to get involved. They admit to sort of knowing him, but not in any huge detail, and she's having a really hard time just getting any information about where he might be. Something has definitely happened. Whether he's alive or dead is unclear. I would probably guess dead at this point, but I could be way off the mark. There does seem to be a couple of things. So her brother Ben has a cat who is walking around with blood on his paws, and she's just sort of like, oh, it's called a mouse. It's killed something. It's fine. She hasn't checked whether or not this animal is injured and it's its own blood. She's just assumed. And I mean, the people are really suspicious, which is obviously the point, but the fact that they're being so sort of as unhelpful as they are would kind of be a red flag to me. She's kind of annoyed by them, but she's not really pushing it. She's just kind of asking questions, and then when they don't answer, she's like, oh, okay, that was annoying, but you know, she's not doing anything to get an answer. So yeah, I'm intrigued by this, but I have to say I'm not as pulled in by this one as I was by her other book. I'm not at a point where I'm like, I have to get back to the book. You know, everything else has to stop. I have to carry on reading. So I'm hoping that will change, because I did really enjoy The Hunting Party. And as I've said, I do own the guest list, so I do really want to read that as well. I have been really intrigued by her writing. And it's a different style, it's a different way of doing it. I love the fact that the chapters are super short. It makes reading really, really quick and fast-paced. Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. And I will update you when I've read a bit more. So 50% of the way through this now and enjoying it. It's definitely not grabbing me quite as much as The Hunting Party did, but I am enjoying it. I think it's helped by the fact that the chapters are all really short. It just makes for a quick sort of fast-paced read and really simple to get through. We've got 6 POVs, so there are additional characters, but the main ones that the chapters follow are a sort of cast of 6 main characters. None of them can be trusted. They're all keeping secrets. They're all still really reluctant to talk about Ben and whether or not they know where he is. Jess is still searching for him, still looking for clues. We have had a reveal about how the characters are linked, so it's not just that they all just live in the same apartment block. They are connected, and it's how that connection then links to Ben's disappearance. It's no clearer as to who is responsible, who is the guilty party. Still none the wiser. I'm waiting for a twist. We've had a reveal, but I'm waiting for something to really shock and surprise me, and that hasn't happened yet. So I will update you a little bit further along and see how it's going. So I'm now about 75% of the way through the Paris apartment. We've had more reveals on how the characters are connected. The additional characters are the ones that we're not necessarily getting their perspectives of, but they're still involved. They're kind of adding clues and providing more information. Still none the wiser as to where Ben is and what's happened to him. I'm waiting for a massive twist, because otherwise I've got no clue as to how this is going to end. I am enjoying it. I'm not loving it, but I am hooked, and it is a fast read, an easy read, and yeah, it's enjoyable. So I have finished reading The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, and I actually really enjoyed this. It didn't quite hook me in as much as I'd hoped, but it's really well written, really well plotted. There are twists and turns that I wasn't expecting and didn't see coming. Yeah, overall it's just a really good book. So in terms of characters, we've got a whole cast and they are all suspicious. Almost everybody is really unlikable. The main character, Jess, who we are following, is the only one who really you can kind of trust and take her word for what's going on, because she's the one who's looking for her brother Ben. I actually really like that Lucy Foley has kind of found her way of writing. So she formats her books so that each chapter is from the different point of view of a different character. So I can understand this way of writing might not be for everybody, because you really do have to pay attention to the characters and identify the voices that you're getting in the perspectives. But all of the distinct characters are really, really well written. They've all got their own personalities, their own way of talking. In terms of atmosphere, this one isn't quite so clear as her other novel, The Hunting Party. That one had a real setting. It was remote Scotland in winter. This is just Paris. I did find myself getting halfway through and wanting a bit more Paris and more descriptions of the city, but actually there is a scene where Jess says to one of the other characters that she's not there for sightseeing, she's not a tourist, she's looking for her brother, and that is her priority. And actually that kind of helped, because it stopped me wanting that sense of place. And normally that's actually something that's really important to me. I love a book that makes me want to go to where it's set, but actually with this book that just wasn't that important, and it didn't really matter because the people in the book gave off all of the Parisian vibes that you needed. You didn't really need the place described to you, because I think it would have been really easy to just do it in too much detail. So actually not doing it very much at all ended up being the right decision, I think, actually. As I've said, in terms of the writing, Lucy Foley has a really distinct way, and I think it's one that really helps her stand out. There's a lot of authors who do the multiple POVs and multiple timelines, and that's great, but she has a really clear way of writing her characters, and you know, as long as you pay attention, they're actually quite easy to follow. Her plotting is just so complex and so well put together and structured. I hate to think how long it takes to actually plan one of her books. I think I said before that I am picturing just a wall of post-it notes and clippings and Polaroid photos, and then just a web of string everywhere connecting everything together, because I really just can't imagine otherwise how she would put something like this together and make sure that all of the characters are woven together in the way that she actually wants them. As far as the actual mystery went, I really enjoyed it. Nothing was too obvious. The kind of major plot twist at the end, I did guess, but actually quite late. And so I didn't feel like I was reading 2/3 of a book waiting for something to happen which I'd already suspected. The smaller reveals along the way I just thought were really good. They fitted really well. They helped make the story make sense. And they didn't feel like something had come out of nowhere and it didn't make sense, and you were kind of left thinking, well, where the hell did that come from? There was none of that, which is good. And overall, just the conclusion itself was actually really logical and it all made sense. There was nothing at the end that made me feel as though it didn't add up to what had happened before. All the pieces slotted in well to make the final picture. So overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really clever and creative. I am definitely becoming a fan of Lucy Foley's work. I do own one of her other books, The Guest List, that I'm really looking forward to getting to at some point. And she's just an author who I think she knows what she's doing. She knows how to plot a book, she knows how to structure a book, she knows how to write characters, and she has a real distinct way of doing it. I just hope that as she writes more, she doesn't find herself sort of repeating things that she's already done. I think she's definitely an author that I'm looking forward to reading more of, and this is definitely a book that I'd recommend.